That there's a metering gap in Nigeria's electricity supply is no longer news. In fact, in December 2018, the regulatory body, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, disclosed that 6 in every 10 users of grid-generated electricity supplied by 11 electricity distribution companies in Nigeria have not been metered so far. No wonder the term estimated billing is still a very common use in discussions around the electricity sector. Metering the Nigerian populace is the crux of our focus on this episode of Big Story. You're welcome. I'm Ini John Mekwa. About 6 years into privatization of the electricity sector, Nigeria has a record of one transmission company, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, which is under the purview of the federal government, 6 generating companies called GENCOs. Presently, the federal government has fully divested its interest in the 6 GENCOs and 11 distribution companies called the DISCOs. There are also independent power producers, IPPs, and the generating stations under the National Integrated Power Project, NIPP. There's a claim by the Ministry of Power that the transmission company has the capacity for about 7,500 megawatts, but the generation can only handle 4,600 megawatts, and that has been the electricity situation in the country for some time now.
Transmission capacity has grown again. The last simulation that we did in December 2018 was 8,100. The generation capacities are also increasing, but it's a value chain where the distribution uptake is not matching up with the available power. And of course, from time to time, there are snags in the value chain. Maybe a 33 kV line goes, maybe gas issues, maintenance even in some places requires shutdown because we still don't have enough power. But I can say very, very confidently that clearly we've moved forward. The reason we're asking for a renewed mandate, which we have now got, is to move even further. There are issues at the distribution end of metering, of outdated assets.
One of the outdated assets has been traced to the area of metering. The DISCOs have a collective customer base of over 8 million, out of which just about 3.6 million have been metered, and over 4 million are not metered as at August 2018. The consequences of having this large number of unmetered population is not lost on the economy, chief of which forms what has now been termed commercial losses to the DISCOs. Lack of adequate metering has made electricity theft more attractive, while on the other hand, the system of estimated billing has been used as an excuse to ignore payment by consumers, as many have described it as crazy billing. In all this, the DISCOs lose funds to function more efficiently and the populace lose supply, which is supposed to accelerate economic activities.
We decided that we cannot sit by idly. We can use our regulatory power and our policy power. So we created a policy called meter asset providers. What this does is to create a new class of investments and businessmen whose core business will be manufacture, produce, supply, and install meters and fill the gap that the distribution companies cannot raise capital to fill. They can't do so alone. They must do so under a procurement policy with the distribution company. So that policy has been approved. There's a procurement process to it for transparency and accountability. I think 121 companies have applied. They have shortlisted, I think, about 60. And I think 14 have now qualified because they now have agreements with different DISCOs. And we are now in the process of issuing them licenses to start. But people must understand that we have to painstakingly plan this, learning from our experiences with CAPME, where people were supposed to advance payment for their meters, get it, I think, in 45 days, And in some cases, they never got it. So it looked like advance fee fraud, and government was caught in the middle. This time, we are trying to get parties to contract at arm's length so that we just supervise what goes on.
Meter asset providers MAP are to lift the burden of providing meters from the discos, and the chain has the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission NERC and the discos closely knitted in this chain of supply. Mr. Droshola Omogbenigwe is one of the meter asset providers. He says the journey to qualify started a long time ago. There are questions from the consumers on the genuinity and financial capacity of approved maps, since the essence of the policy is majorly to fund meters, which has become a burden to the discos.
When government then designed the meter asset provider program, they came up with a set of guidelines. That set of guidelines required that companies that could raise the necessary financing should come up and bid for to be licensed as meter asset providers. And the first stage of bidding was, first of all, you need to apply to NEC, be given a no objection. The no objection therefore says, we approve from what we have seen, we have no objection, you can possibly meet all the conditions to be a meter asset provider. From there on, you now watch out for the bid tenders from the distribution companies. So each distribution company then sent out tenders for interested meter service providers and companies that have no objection to come and bid to be meter asset providers.
The maps are expected to operate the end-user metering aspects of the value chain, that is, in terms of financing, procurement, installation, servicing, maintenance and replacement of metering equipment. They are also to handle the day-to-day operations and obligations as regards their services to the end consumers. Also, in the initial arrangement, it was expected that the maps will recover the cost of the meter, that is the cost of the meter, meter accessories and all associated costs of meter installation, plus a return on investment, as well as a reasonable return over a period of 10 years.
The 10-year period was not a very easy program to maintain, plus the fact that the DISCO must be ready to give us instruments that formalize and guarantee the time that we get paid and the amount that we get paid. The good thing that NEC then did when they appreciated all the issues involved was they said, look, in order to get the meter out to the consumer very quickly, let us waive the 10-year financing for now, and let us meter only those people who have the money to pay outrightly.
So that's what the minister was saying.
With the introduction of MAP came the question of whose responsibility is it to provide meters to Nigerians. This sparked a not-too-friendly discussion recently in the sector and leaves many consumers wondering who they should run to for their metering needs and the procedure of the MAP policy.
MAP, is it still the responsibility of the discos? I say to an extent, yes. The MAP contractors, if I can call them that, or the MAP people are going ahead. They've identified there's been rules to ensuring no objection from NERC, to going through a bid process. That was a big deal, that we were able to complete that on time and get it done. So for us, the real work now begins. Let me put it that way. I mean, picture a single individual gets a meter. Picture a single individual gets a meter on that map. So picture that, and that map person, in terms of, one, the maintenance, ensuring that it's there and working properly. So the logistics of doing that, ensuring that it's working well, ensuring that if there's a replacement needed, it's able to be done, ensuring that there's revenue, as far as revenue protection, we're able to ensure that those meters are reading the exact supply. So in simple words, there's the issues of bypasses, direct thefts, free riders is solved. So, each individual disco has gone through a tender process, which has been closely watched. okay, by auditors appointed by NEC. So each individual disco separately has come to the point where they either have one or more maps based on some very clear financial, technical, local content. So they've gone through a tender process where the successful map participants, after being scrutinized as far as process and their ability to do what they said they would do, then have become part of the map. So ECO might have different maps. Abuja can have different maps, and you can have similar and or different.
By 1st of May, we are rolling out metering to our customers. So we are starting with clusters. And for map, it is winner takes all. If you are interested in having meter, all we just need to do is to identify you with one of our map initiatives, and they give you your meter at a fee that needed to be decided by the meter asset provider.
There must be sufficient education to the consumer as to if you need a meter, you first of all register. There will be a procedure for you to register that you need a meter, and there will be an assessment in your house to ensure that, to ascertain whether you're a single phase or three phase. That's to check your load demand. So as soon as they ascertain that you're a single phase or three phase, then they will notify you.
MAP is expected to begin on the first day of May 2019, meaning that from then, consumers should have access to pay into an escrow account and in 10 days have meters installed in their homes.
By the 1st of May, distribution companies and meter asset providers should probably have agreed on the service agreement and banks that they will use to establish the escrow account. Therefore, on the 1st of May, customers can start to pay into those accounts, and within X number of days from when they pay into those accounts, they should expect meters in their homes. If a process called enumeration that the discos have mandatorily or statutorily been required to execute, if enumeration has been done, which most discos have done, then the process of obtaining the meters in 10 days will be feasible, in which case you can identify where that specific customer is, and you deploy machinery and asset being the meter, towards installing in that particular location.
Before that, there must be a necessary arrangement between the MAP licensee and each of the manufacturers, because manufacturing procedure takes a little while, because to buy component and some other accessory for us to actually produce meter, they need to sign us, they need to engage us in full capacity to even make payment to we, the manufacturer, to produce for them. Otherwise, the time variation will affect the entire deployment process, because to procure raw material for meter production, at times it takes up to 2 to 3 months. So each of the prospective licensees is supposed to have engaged most meter manufacturer. And there must be a common platform to be able to manage the entire operation from the regulatory perspective, so that they can see the picture, the bigger picture of how the meter is being deployed to each of the area that assigned to the MAP licensee.
Metering Nigerians now opens a new window of investment, but with the excitement of this comes the issue of funding the business, which has before now been listed as a challenge in the business environment in the country.
It will work if we come up with bankable proposals. I've always said it, that in this country, money has stopped being our problem when it comes to financing development. It is for us to come up with bankable proposals. And for instance, the African Development Bank, one of the high fives sector is lighting up Africa, providing electricity. And ADB launched an investment platform. They are ready to use their AAA status to mobilize suitable financing from all over the world to finance Africa's development. Like ADB president said that the investable assets globally are in the tune of about $120 trillion. And Africa's infrastructure financing needs ranges between 68 to 108 trillion dollars. So in other words, we have funds in excess of our needs internationally. So it's for us to be able to create the right environment to attract those funds into Africa and into Nigeria, which is one of the biggest markets, if not the biggest in Africa, right? For us to be able to make good use of those funds so that investors will make their good returns.
The implementation of the Meter Asset Providers policy comes with the news that providers are compelled to patronize local meter manufacturers, however, only to a maximum of 30%, with the liberty to import 70% of their products.
We have never been given this kind of opportunity of 30%. But our mindset is that as soon as we're able to exhaust the 30% opportunity, we'll be able to clamor for more. I believe the whole arrangement is that let us test the local manufacturer if they have the 30% capability before we give them another phase of opportunity. It's not something that they can procure at a go. They are not buying 100% at once. They will first of all sign the 30% with the local manufacturer. After they have exhausted the 30%, then they can now go out to get additional if the local factory cannot meet up the 30% or cannot demonstrate that they can actually do the 30% opportunity given to them. How well is the regulator following up what the regulation says? Are the people complying with it? Is there a penalty clause for not compliance to the act that sets the map up? If NEC is doing their job as it is supposed to be, they're supposed to have a penalty clause for not actually complying to the guideline. What I expect from them is to do a follow-up to make sure that the implementation is seamless so that we can have good result at the end of the day, because it's an opportunity for us to actually expand each of the factories we have in Nigeria. I can expand my production line and I can employ more people if I'm given the opportunity to expand. But we should not keep encouraging that we should bring in 70% from outside, because we have what it takes to actually supply the 100%. But let's start from somewhere. Let's start the 30% before we can make demand for more. This is an opportunity for us to develop our country, to reduce our unemployment. It's better we subsidize production process. This is the time we need all the developmental bank to come and intervene, to make funding available at a very unit interest rate, like CBN. This is the time you should intervene and give us sufficient money to procure this component ahead and expand our production facility so that we can accommodate so many people working on the streets. So this is an opportunity for us to develop our production value chain upward and upscale the entire technology that we need to develop locally. Because when you are increasing production, you are equally improving the knowledge gap about a particular technology, because so many people who have graduated as an electrical electronic will have opportunity to practice what they have learned in the school, in the factory. So we need government intervention, and the only interface we have with the government intervention is CBN for now.
The providers seem comfortable with the 30-70% arrangement, but just like the local manufacturers, they hope that the scene will evolve over time to a more favorable arrangement, as this would, among other things, reduce the demand on foreign exchange.
In every evolving market, you have to take it stage by stage. Don't forget that in the last 2 to 3 years, the metering business has been very slow. As a result of its mismatch between the cost of the meter and what the customer is willing to pay. So now that NEC has says, okay, let's engage in a rollout, this is an appropriate cost recovery price, let's all run. Local capacity too will have to ramp up production. Now, the interesting thing about local capacity is that a lot of the CKDs or SKDs, semi-knockdown parts, that they're going to tie together are imported. You have to start from a state that can be monitored, monitor it, enhance their conditions of engagement with the market, and make it possible for them to improve. And in that period as well, they will also have more backward integration. For instance, making the casings, making the LCDs for the readout, making the MCBs, mini circuit breakers, all of those things. The market will be stimulated locally now to produce them here. And that for 30% will slowly rise up.
Another aspect which is likely to come up at the inception of the meter assets providers policy is the personnel required for installation. With over 4 million demands already available and increasing daily, certainly there would be the need for personnel to carry out the work after ensuring that meters are available.
So what we engineers are trying to do, when in Korea we have engineers, we have technologists, and we have technicians. We are all together. We are all stakeholders. So engineers will take the design, get all these technicians, enlighten them, put them on training, tell them what to do. They do the practical aspect before they go out there to install. That's where we have the engineers, and not just getting roadside technicians to do it.
Are they honest? Will they make away with meters? Because when you've trained a guy, an installer, and he's become part of your system, in fact, many of them you have a personal relationship with, you are extremely disappointed when they collude with the customer on sharp practices or actually steal the meters and run off. That's one of our own occupational hazards. Now, when they do that, indeed, the system has penalties for such installers, whereby they can be sent to jail and punished in a myriad of ways. It's very important that the quality of installation be right. Because if the quality of installation is not right, there are lots of dangers and perils that consumers can suffer. Even the installers can suffer. So there are given procedures, guidelines, safety, consciousness, standard of installation that has to be met. So apart from the software protocols that have to be met, there's a lot of safety that has to be met, and standards to the installation.
Even if MAP works effectively from the first day of May to cover the backlog of over 4 million needs, it is safe to say that demands for meters are birthed daily across the country, as home ownership has been embraced by a huge number of Nigerians.
When you build your house and you needed to do connection, you come obtain the forms and you do the necessary measure that we needed to do. Your own electrician that has done the house wiring has a place to stamp on our forms. We also have technical inspectors who will go inspect, and once we know that we have satisfied our condition, we will arrange a map, that is meter asset provider, for you, that will also tell you the kind of metering that is needed for your building, and you will be expected to pay for it. So, and if payment is done, you are expected, the meter asset provider is expected to meter your building within 10 days of that payment, starting from the day the payment is done.
While MAP seeks to address the metering challenge in the electricity sector, there are other infrastructural needs which the DISCOs have highlighted over the years, from substations to transformers, among others.
Government has now decided, as a 40% holder of equity in the DISCOs, to invest. We have approval to invest 72 billion. This will involve installing transformers, breakers, new lines, and all of that. Those approvals have been submitted to Cabinet Office. As they come through the Federal Executive Council, we will see improved capacity, because we have at least 2,000 megawatt that is not getting out.
What
What more can we say? Electricity supply is key to the success of the ease of doing business and other policies and attempts to build the Nigerian economy. So once again, Nigerians look forward to a successful MAP program and an increase in power supply in their homes and industries. That's our story. Thank you for watching. I'm Imi John Mekwa.